beauty of this new platform is you get to all see Keith dancing instead of just me from before. So this is awesome.
Catchy.
Yep. All right. Welcome back to the VET S.O.S podcast. Remember, don't drown the sea of transition. Grab the VET S.O.S lifeline. VET S.O.S is brought to you by the Who You Know Network and proud members of the Parade Deck community. Today we're sitting down with Katie Helbling, member of the ClearanceJobs content team and host of their podcast. Looking forward to talking about the importance of this organization and all they're doing for our community. Here today again with my brother Keith. Keith, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm super excited to have Katie on the show. I've got to work with her in the past with my agency and my employer. And then, of course, we were on her podcast. So, no, this is great. I'm excited to have her on and dive even deeper into the great things. And I am sorry if you just heard my dog lose her mind. Don't know what that was all about. But anyway, great to be here.
Dogs that's a whole nother story around my house right now. It's been absolutely crazy. My German Shepherd acts more like a husky when he doesn't get his way. You know, those temper tantrums and all the whining. I'm like, this is crazy. But they're
I don't know what she was whining at. She was looking out the window. There might have been a bird or something out there. She's a bird dog. What's that?
Squirrel.
Yeah, or a squirrel. Yeah,
Secret squirrel.
All right, so jumping right into it, we got Katie. She is a recovering Department of Defense intelligence community industry recruiter, making the security clearance and hiring process funny, one meme at a time. She supported defense contractors until joining the ClearanceJobs content team 5 years ago. She creates content surrounding the security clearance process, intelligence community, espionage, national security, and defense contracting updates, and exclusive interviews with IC and government leaders. How you doing today, Katie?
Pretty good. I appreciate all that you two do with the VET S.O.S podcast. I was so happy with how our episode turned out on the Security Clearance Careers podcast, so I was really excited to join.
Well, we love having you on here, and we love doing your show as well. It's going to be great to help our audience understand about this organization and what's going on out there, and of course, making sure that they know about your show so that they can hear all these great stories that you're bringing forward. So let's start with how did you get to working with an organization like ClearanceJobs and supporting veterans?
Sure. Well, like many other people kind of getting into working or supporting defense contractors, mine was a very strange journey. That's not what I set out to do, as I was graduating high school and kind of figuring out what was next. I just found myself really needing a job. I was a very broke college graduate, and so I joined a defense contractor that did work with a few different agencies, and they staffed different programs with the Department of Army, and I started out doing admin and receptionist work for them just for a part-time job just to meet their hub zone numbers. And then they had an opening for their recruiting and HR department. And so I kind of put my name in the hat there. I was decent with people. I liked people. And then throughout supporting defense contractors from there, I just really found I loved helping veterans get jobs. Naturally, working in the cleared space, those that received a security clearance through the service, were a good fit for many of the programs I was staffing. And so, again, I really liked helping the military community, both veterans and, military spouses obtain employment following service to our nation. And so when ClearanceJobs reached out for an opportunity to support them in creating content to reach both that candidate audience and then recruiters as well, it kind of allowed me to still work in this space, but not deal with a lot of the headaches that recruiting provided me. So I gladly took the opportunity.
Headaches in recruiting?
Right? Well, and I was going to ask, so especially now working in ClearanceJobs, because I kind of work in the same close proximity of the same field. So I know what my answer is going to be, but how many veterans do you come across that are like, I'm a retired '06 with my top secret clearance in poly, where's my next job? It's automatic.
Daily. Yeah, I mean, my messages, are filled with that.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's what I love about Clearance Jobs. We are such a great, because I know that on our podcast we talked about that sea of goodwill and kind of sifting through a lot of these resources. And Clearance Jobs is just such a clutch resource, at least when it comes to obtaining employment post service. So I get those messages all the time. But
Yeah.
you know, clearance. I feel so lucky that that's one thing that I get to do in my job at
Yeah.
Clearance Jobs.
Well, and I think not being a veteran gives you a very unique perspective. So I led with the joke to ask the follow-up serious question of what advice would you give to any service member, but especially the senior leaders, quote unquote, that they were told that coming out. Oh, you're a E9 with a top secret with Poly, you're guaranteed a job. Like, what advice would you give those folks that might be listening right now? We might have some of them listening to this episode right now. Like, what do you want them to hear?
Yeah, I mean, I don't get too cocky because I mean you just never know. But I think more so when I was thinking about joining your podcast, I think one thing I really landed on is taking the time. First of all, start early. I mean, we were just at a couple of events over the last few weeks. This is our busy event season, and so I'm talking with a lot of people getting out right now, and or at least in the next 6 months to a year. And people are talking about their out day like in September, and they're like, "Yeah, I'm like just kind of getting started." And I'm like, "Holy smokes, dude! You gotta get on it." And it's like, no, I mean, I'd love to like soften the blow for you and say you're fine, but like, don't get too cocky because you really need to take that time to kind of reflect, answer those important questions for yourself. Like, am I going to need a lot of financial help? Like, am I financial dodo brain? Like, is that what I need to find resources on? Or is it obtaining employment? Like, is that really what I need to focus on? Am I going to need support elsewhere? So taking that reflection and then answering those important questions. And what I mean by that is, where do I want to live? What do I want to go to school? What does my family want at this point? Are there considerations there? Do I care about working remotely? Because if you go up to a recruiter or a hiring manager and say, I'll just do anything, just let me know. I mean, that's not going to serve you very well. So I think my advice is definitely taking the time, like think about your out day, think about when you think you should start figuring stuff out, and then add like 6 months to a year to that, and then taking that self-reflection period to figure out really what's going to be next for you.
I completely agree with you. I fully believe that you should take all the time you need to transition, and you should start way early. Even if it's not doing the official TAP programs and stuff like that, start your planning well before the time comes. I've actually seen recently, it seems like more and more posts about probably senior leaders. I didn't pay too much attention to it, honestly, but more and more people posting about how you don't need the 2 years at the military, because I believe they're changing it now anyway. But that you should be able to do it faster. You don't need this, you don't need that. And my assumption is that they probably had something lined up already, and it didn't really impact them, and they didn't give a whole lot of thought to their transition, which is fantastic for them. But from what I've seen, what I've experienced, the more time you can put towards your transition, the better off you're going to be. Sure. Even if that's just taking a certification or starting to work on a degree or whatever the case may be, those things that'll help you down the road. And the planning piece, doing it early, is so important, because you spend any time in anything, you realize that a plan doesn't survive first contact. So as soon as you start doing your plan, you're going to have to change it anyway. So
right. Well, and I mean, it's not going to be a one-size-fits-all. And so for people to say, like, it should only take you this amount of time, like, people are so different. Everyone's journey is so different. I mean, to make a blanket statement like that, I mean, that also puts a hell of a lot of pressure on people. Like, you should be able to do it in this time. And if you're not, then what is wrong with you? I mean, It takes some people more time than others, so why not start early? Because, I mean, it's not wasted time. You're still building connections and, preparing yourself. So why not?
And I think there's a kind of a misconception when we tell people to start early. Some service members, I think there may even be the risk of they in their mind they're checking out early. They're not like you're still going to work a year and a half from your separation date. You're still doing your job, but a year and a half, 2 years out, even this is where you start thinking, what do I want to be when I grow up? You're not applying for jobs and and dealing with interviews and stuff, but there's other things to do 2 years out or maybe whatever less. But yeah, no, I think you hit the nail on the head, Katie. So, clearance jobs, you all dabble in the cleared space, so it's primarily federal and contractors and stuff like that. And without getting into the politics of everything going on right now, what advice? Because service members, veterans, I was one of them. I wanted to get back into the federal space, right? I wanted, a lot of them do, and it's normally a great place to work. So with the current climate, what advice would you give our transitioning service members and/or veterans that are they still want to get back into the federal space and continue to serve their country?
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things. So year over year from ClearanceJobs perspective, when it comes to cleared jobs, and I'll back it up a little bit and give your audience context in case they're not familiar. We are very different from a USA Jobs in that you actually have a living profile on our site, so recruiters and hiring managers can search for you, particularly if you're a passive candidate. It's not like you're just throwing out applications. But other big difference is we are mainly heavily industry. So while we do have federal agencies that use our platform to find cleared talent and post their jobs, it's mainly defense contractors of all sizes, staffing agencies that are kind of using us to connect with cleared candidates. And so year over year, when it comes to jobs listed on our site, we're not seeing a big difference, which I think is good. That's positive news. And while you'll see a lot of these headlines that, I think sometimes are just reaching for clicks, we're seeing that while there are hiring freezes with some agencies, there are positions of particular importance that are always going to be there. I mean, Department of Defense is a pretty insulated industry, and so we're seeing more shifts, I would say, when it comes to money and hiring. One thing at news.clearancejobs.com, we report on it daily, the Department of Defense contracts that are awarded at $7.5 million and above every day, those are not slowing down. I mean, there's still lots going on. So I think the other thing I did want to note here for those transitioning out, when it comes to security clearances, just thinking about out day, getting in touch with your security officer before you transition out. And if you do want to take a break, totally get it, but just keeping that 2-year time frame in your brain. So it used to be when we were doing periodic reinvestigations, your secret was good, after 10 years of, a break in service or leaving a cleared position. And for a top secret, it was, 5 years after leaving that cleared job. Now with continuous vetting and that policy overhaul, we're seeing 2 years is the magic number. So when you leave a cleared job, just keeping in mind that you want to get another cleared job within that 2 years, just to make sure you don't have to start from scratch if you want to maintain that clearance.
But it's so much fun.
Well,
I feel so bad for folks that it's really not fun. I mean, if you ever think you want to get back into this space, I have to underscore that for you all.
Yeah. Well, I greatly appreciate you doing that because there's a lot of confusion out there about how long good clearances are for, or how long clearances are good for. Words are hard right now. Wow. But yeah, I think that's vital information. There was somewhere else I was going with that, and it just left me because I was tripping up on my own words. Good thing we're not recording right now. But anyway, so
don't scare me like that, man.
Right? Nah, man. So I love the content that you're creating. You are a kindred spirit with me in my eyes. Yeah, a sister from another mister in a lot of ways, because you like to use the humor aspect, and I love that. I think humor makes everything, even the hard stuff, better, right? You know, it softens the impact and the blow sometimes. So, what kind of strategies for? Actually, I'm going to ask a two-sided question here. What kind of strategies, with how you create content, what strategies would you encourage people in our space that are looking for that cleared talent to attract that top tier talent? Because again, with the climate the way it is and everything, I keep hearing that there's still an ongoing shortage of cleared professionals. So, you know, how can companies attract that top tier cleared talent other than going to clearance jobs? And then what advice would you give to our service members, again, from that content creation space to make sure, not to make sure, but to help them get noticed, right? Because we always talk about you got to be noticed. You know, you got to be at the top. You know, get your resume noticed, get your profile noticed, whatever it might be.
Yeah, I think for recruiters, when it comes to content creation, I mean, one thing that there's probably too much sass associated with some of the content I create.
I love it.
Just understanding the audience that you're speaking to. I mean, a lot of the audience that I've spoken to over the last 10 years has been a veteran audience, and they kind of appreciate the frank, you know, no BS kind of speak. And so that's one thing I take into consideration when I'm not a strategy person, but that's one thing I keep in mind. I mean, it's the audience that I'm speaking to. And so I think for recruiters, understanding if you are, you know, staffing for jobs that are likely going to be veterans, understanding that audience that you're speaking to. If you are trying to recruit cleared engineers, that might be a different, you know, sort of speak. So understanding that audience that you are trying to reach. And then I think for veterans, I think this goes for both content creation and like operating online, but also really at events. I think just, you know, being authentic and genuine, like if you are anxious about the transition and, you know, you have 3 to 6 months, like just be honest about that. When you go up to a table or a recruiter or hiring manager at a career fair or networking event, you know, just asking questions, being curious, being confident though. I was at an event and a lot of the folks walking up just kind of walked up and stood there and didn't really even know how to start the conversation. So just, hey, what do you do? This is kind of my situation. I'm not familiar with your company. Can you tell me what you do? That's such an easy icebreaker. So sort of getting into that rhythm of confidence and, you know, being genuine, I think is important in person. And then when you are operating online, ClearanceJobs, I'll put the plug. If you do have a security clearance, it's the best place to be. But when you are posting or kind of sending cold messages, reaching out to recruiters, being really direct. Recruiters are really busy. Hiring managers or even like, you know, managers within the field that you're trying to get into, just being really direct, like, hey, this is my background. I have this clearance. I applied to this job. I get out in 3 months and I'm really trying to secure employment, and just leave it at that. I mean, they don't need a novel. So yeah, just being really direct and being really explicit. If you have a question, just ask it, and try not to waste anybody's time, I guess.
Yeah. And I have to apologize real quick because I just I'm diving down all these rabbit holes, and I'm like, some people. I mean, you explained what ClearanceJobs is, but I lived and breathed. We're on a slight pause because we're on one of those agencies that's under the hiring freeze. But I lived and breathed on ClearanceJobs for like almost 2 years, so I'm very intimately familiar. And I'm thinking like everybody knows what ClearanceJobs is, but for those folks, you mentioned, you know, you have this living, breathing profile, but what sorts of things can you share to our audience that isn't familiar with ClearanceJobs? Because I'm being conceited over here thinking everybody is. What can Why would they want to go to ClearanceJobs? Like, what sort of statistics does ClearanceJobs maybe have to show the worth and why it's so important to register with your site and search for jobs on there?
Yeah. I mean, I will say we are the largest ecosystem of specifically cleared jobs and cleared candidates. I mean, I think there is definitely a place for platforms like LinkedIn, but you're getting a lot of content outside of just specifically jobs,
Yeah.
and then specifically cleared jobs. I mean, I've seen posts about wedding anniversaries and what people are doing on PTO on LinkedIn, and everybody's just trying to catch likes. So I think, ClearanceJobs is, I always call it like the the last purest form of like social media, if you want to call it that, because also it's not necessarily like a weighted algorithm where like more engagement means you're going to be seen. It is strictly job content to help you get a job and strictly cleared jobs. So we have, I think at this point, 1.8 million registered candidates for employers that might be listening. And then for candidates that might be listening, we have, at any point, it's between 2,000 and 3,000 defense contractors or federal agencies that are using us to source cleared talent from our resume database or post their jobs. And I think right now we have about 60,000 jobs posted. Anything from a public trust up to a TS/SCI with some sort of poly, both CONUS, OCONUS. Creating a profile is super easy for candidates. So unlike other platforms, we're not going to ask you to upload your resume and then answer a million questions about information that you can find in that resume. So you upload your resume, you answer a few questions related to if you're open to relocating, issuing agency for your clearance, things like that. And then if you're, a year or two out from your I'd say upload your profile as soon as possible, because you can just let that profile hang there and then field whatever messages you're getting from recruiters or hiring managers. And then I think even more importantly, if you're not getting any messages. And so, Keith, I'm sure you could speak to this part. The way recruiters are finding candidates in our resume database are by Boolean search strings. So, and or different skill sets, certifications they can plug in there, including location, clearance level to find candidates. Or they use our IntelliSearch function, which is basically uploading whatever job description from a statement of work or one that their HR team created, and that kind of matches candidates. So you can tweak your profile, and I think uploading it early allows you to do that. And then for kind of tips for those, after you create that profile, I think really think about your timing. And we actually do military transition boot camps every quarter within the ClearanceJobs platform. So if you create a profile, you can attend one of those. And we talk a lot about timelines. And so, if you're a year out, obviously having that profile and attending networking events, even career fairs, I think, and just kind of getting your resume out there because you want it to be in as many applicant tracking systems as you can. But also, if you're 6 months out to 3 months out, starting formally applying on our site and then using our dashboard for candidates. A lot of candidates don't know about that. So when you log in, you'll click on dashboard, which is on the top menu, and you can check out what recruiters are viewing your profile. Maybe they're viewing your profile and not reaching out, but that gives you the opportunity to reach out to them and be like, hey, saw you were looking at my profile. What's up? Like, this is kind of my situation. Maybe don't talk like me. I'm very unprofessional.
Why didn't you swipe right?
I'm so unprofessional. It's not even funny. But and then I think joining groups on our site is another good opportunity to connect with employers. We have location-based groups, skill set-based groups, and that's where recruiters are going to send some of their like hot jobs that are location dependent or skill set dependent.
Yeah.
ClearanceJobs, like I said, very all job content, which I so appreciate. It's like less of like the cringe LinkedIn posts that, again, there's a place for it, but it's very, niche or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
and I feel personally attacked after like a week ago, I posted a photo of my daughter graduating high school. So,
God, I
and it's
loved
gotten
that. You
more.
know I liked
I
that.
know, and I was gonna
I
say it got
liked
more
that.
traction than any other post I've had in months. So, but I can attest to what Katie's saying in that, as on the recruiting side of the house, the headhunting side of the house, is we could post jobs on USA Jobs all day long and just let people apply, but there are times where folks like myself in the federal space. For anybody listening to it, know I work in a federal agency, so I'm not even on the contracting side. But there are times where we headhunt, and there have been plenty of times I've gone on clearance jobs and headhunted people, and I do. It's better more often than not. I can get much more accurate search results than I can on LinkedIn. Nothing against LinkedIn. I'm very active on there too, but they appeal to the masses, right? Not just cleared folks. So yeah, clearance jobs provides a much stronger platform for the headhunting purposes within the cleared community. So no, absolutely. Shawn, we are at time, brother. But I have totally hijacked this call while Katie and I have. So what do you got before we close out?
I'm just here for color commentation at this point. No, it's a fantastic organization. Honestly, I had no idea how much ClearanceJobs had. I was aware of the organization. I wasn't interested in moving forward in any kind of clearance capacity, so I didn't utilize it during my transition. But I also had no idea that you had all those different forums that you could go through, plus the training and things like that. And so in hindsight, I kind of wish I would have created a profile and gotten on there and just sort of been involved a little bit in it. But it sounds like a fantastic program or organization to be a part of, whether you're going to try to stay cleared or not. Just to check it out and see, because you don't know what opportunities are out there waiting for you. So just love the work you guys are doing, and the fact that you have such a large community is impressive. And as far as LinkedIn goes, I keep the comments to myself most of the time, but I'm just always amazed by how many personal pictures are on there that have nothing to do with what somebody posts. It's strictly to get clicks. It's like,
I know it is.
it's like, I'm here with a face for radio, so I don't get to do that kind of stuff. I don't put my photo up there on my post, but it's crazy.
That's why I create a logo like I did. That way I don't have to put my face on anything. My logo goes on everything.
Yeah, we are kindred spirits, because mine is the same on LinkedIn.
Absolutely.
Yep, I don't want to post my face on there as much. So.
Yeah. All right, Katie. So I'm so sorry we are at time. I could keep going for another half hour on top of that. But two questions. One, how do folks get in touch with you? I mean, you are the content creator, like I said, kindred spirit, and a lot of the way we create content. So I advise folks, go find you on LinkedIn, just to follow you and the stuff that you post. It's yeah, I love it. It's a little great information with a little bit of humor and a little bit of stats. I love it. So how can folks get in touch with you and or ClearanceJobs? And then my second question is, out of all that content you created, what's the one, what would you say the sassiest meme is that's gotten you in the most trouble in the past?
Oh, man. I mean, probably one I've had to pull, pull down after posting. Oh man, no. So yeah, even if you don't want to maintain your clearance after service, I follow ClearanceJobs on social media strictly for the memes. I mean, it's just fantastic. I mean, go check them all out. We post them on LinkedIn. We have a really great YouTube channel where Lindy talks all of the wonky security clearance topics you can possibly imagine. So find ClearanceJobs on social media for sure. And then I would say a couple of other ways to get in touch that I think are important are our newest venture, fedwork.net. That is for displaced federal workers or anyone interested in sort of the federal policy updates. So definitely check that one out. ClearanceJobsblog.com if you're interested in gaining a security clearance or getting one back. About.clearancejobs.com for all the free veteran resources you can possibly imagine, and to check out our career event schedule, both virtual and in person. And then I think news.clearancejobs.com. Please sign up for our newsletters there. We have one focused on career advice. We have one focused on security clearances, and then one focused for students as well. And then to get in touch with me, you can find me on the internet, or
If you are looking for direct assistance, I am always happy to provide that. You can email me at katie.helbling, HELBLING, at clearancejobs.com.
And Katie, thank you so much for coming on the show. And for all the folks listening, yeah, go check them out. They are like the Wendy's of the employment space as far as their social media goes. I love it. Lots of humor and snarkiness. So, all right. And for everybody listening, on behalf of the VET S.O.S family, we'd like to thank everyone for joining us today. VET S.O.S is growing and spreading its wings. You can follow us on all social media platforms. Make sure to check us out for all 4 of our shows now. And to follow and subscribe to us wherever you get your podcast from. We're on YouTube, Reach Across America Radio, The Parade Deck, you name it, we're on it. And as always, folks, remember, don't drown in the sea of transition. Grab the VET S.O.S Lifeline.